We know in October, or at least we suspect, because it is that case of it might happen, it might not happen. But what am I talking about? You might say. Well, these are the new border checks that we are meant to be bringing in, or at least should have been brought in, because the government has kicked this can down the road 3 times already. And why are they kicking this can down the road? Well, as we have explained time and time again, at the moment, there are checks from UK goods going into the EU. But still, there is pretty much an open border policy from the government to allow any goods coming from the EU into the UK pretty much unchecked. And this has led to some very, very close run situations where there was a shipment of over 13 lorries of, well, suspicious meat is the way it was described in the port, that got caught, that was not fit for human consumption, and that could have ended up in UK food and caused who knows what kind of danger to the British public. So these checks are pretty important, and we really should need them. We really do need them. But because of this open border policy, we are seeing a lot of, well, crooks and smugglers and, well, dodgy businessmen use Europe as more as a gateway to get goods into the UK, where they're, well, should we say, easier to smuggle in because there's this open border. But when you bring in these checks, as to the reason why the Tories keep on putting them off, is that this is going to add to the queues, because you've got to do these border checks. You've got to have this stuff implemented. But we have not, because they keep on putting it off, because this is going to add more queues. This is going to add to yet more delivery time. We've talked before about in the past that when you bring these in, you could have the case of fresh food that needs to be, in the freezer or being processed, whatever, could be sat in a lorry just going off. And this is going to cause huge problems. But it's not just that. There is a ton of these new border operating models that are coming in, again, supposedly in October, of when this is all going to kick off. And I do not think the government will bring these in. I think that once again, they will kick this can down the road to 2024, because they've done it 3 times already. I really think they will do it again, because they do not want to risk the kind of mass reputational damage. And of course, ultimately, this is on Brexit. This will be Brexit that has done this, nothing else. They do not want to do it because they are, again, terrified, as you can see recently, of Nigel Farage. And they know full well that the public has turned against Brexit. And not only that, this is going to have big consequences on UK businesses. So we're going to have a look today that, well, very soon, the UK deli could be dead. It could be the death knell for UK delis here in the UK, that you will not be able to see these new independent delis that have very, very much popped up all over the shop, really over the past decade. They will not be able to operate. And we'll get into that in a moment. But we're going to go over this piece from The Grocer, the UK's number one food, transport, selling, shipping, and independent food retailer magazine. But before we do go diving into this, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and an affiliation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. And of course, there's the Pony Club as well down below, and the YouTube thank you button. And of course, you can always just click the like and share button. So let's go on into this. So as we said, this comes from The Grocer with the title of New Brexit Border Controls Spell the Death of UK Delis. New Brexit checks are about to make it harder for the SMEs to import meat and dairy goods from Europe, raising fears for the future of independent delis and wholesalers who supply them. The ultimate and eventual outcome of Brexit, Foreign Secretary James Cleverly last month told the European Parliament, is a closer and friendlier cooperation between the UK and the EU because it is the sensible and pragmatic outcome. Sensible and pragmatic are words few in the food industry would use to describe the new trading requirements that the EU imports are set to kick in from October. The much delayed new border target operating model, or TOM, aims to end this Brexit uncertainty. And according to the government, by setting out a quote simplified plan for goods entering the UK. But oh, is it anything but simplified? It is massively complicated. And to be honest, you could spend hours, and I would love to try and find an expert somewhere who is this, just to explain how really complicated and convoluted this new border operating model is. I would love to find someone to talk about this with. But for those looking to bring in small shipments, which is the vast majority of shipments, for those looking to bring in these small shipments of artisan goods, such as French camembert, Spanish machigo, or even Italian Parma ham, it looks like another costly and time-consuming bureaucratic minefield. And one senior customer source told the grocer at an industry event earlier this month, this could be the death of the deli. So, how will the new border targeting model actually work? As with most things, Brexit, it remains unclear how these things will actually play out at the border. What we do know is, as things stand, the 31st of October will bring in the rollout of controls, effectively classifying the EU as overseas territory and will treat goods coming in accordingly. So, what does this essentially mean? Well, the big problem here for your independent UK delis, because this is the big people who it's going to hit most, and this is what it's going to be the true end of, is if you are an independent UK deli, you're not ordering vast quantities of stuff. You're ordering, small amounts of stuff. And traditionally, you could bundle this sort of your order all together. So it all came in at once. The meat, the olives, the cheese, etc., all came in at once. It was one package on one pallet, as they describe it in the customs world. So it was easy. And you'll just pay for that. But under this new model, you can no longer do that. And people will remember this, that this is now how exporters have also come into this problem as well. So if you are an independent deli, you now have to have your olives, your hams, your dairies, your different stuff, wherever it might be coming from, all sent separately and paying each time for it with paperwork, with the charges, with the amount of that paperwork costs. As it was described there, a complete bureaucratic minefield, meaning that if you're a deli, you have a customer that orders some cheese from you, and you fill out that paperwork incorrectly, or something wrong happens at the border, there's a delay or something, whatever, that cheese might not make it to you in time. And that is a reputational loss. It is probably a lost customer. This is going to really affect this entire industry. It will probably kill it. It will probably absolutely destroy these businesses completely. And I've said it before, this will be a colossal shame for any businesses that has to close because of Brexit. But this was what we were warning about. The types of these stuff, all these types of checks that we had to bring in. But of course, Brexit was all about trade. Well, you're now making it harder to trade with our closest trading partner. As we always said, trade gravity is a thing. It always is highly observable. Countries trade closest with their closest neighbors first before anyone else. Who are our closest neighbours? Well, they're all in the EU. But I do agree with the grocer on this, and they, like saying in the rest of the article, they go and they talk about how this is really going to end it, and it is the whole packaging, the whole paperwork cost, the time. People who run these independent delis don't have that time to spend to be able to do that. Not only that, but the wholesalers as well, who so then supply these independent delis, they're also going to run into problems because now the delis that they supply are can't afford the stuff, the services. It's going to have and destroy a complete part of this food industry. And it is food and drink who have been the most loud vocal opponents of what the government is doing. So this is why I think, because you're already seeing the articles come out about how Christmas food is going to be in short supply again this year because of these. It is because of these new border checks that are meant to come in on the 31st of October. And once again, I think they are not going to do it. Jacob Rees-Mogg, last time this happened, literally ran this down to the wire. The week before these checks were meant to come in, he goes, "Oh, actually, no, we're going to continue this for a year." So I think Rishi Sunak will do the same. I really think he will do, or at least in this case, Kimmy Badenoch, because she's the one responsible for it this time around. I really think she will. And if she doesn't, well, you're going to see a big, big consequence of Brexit. You're going to see all these queues piling up and adding that we've always talked about, that always would happen. They are now here if they bring these in. And it is going to be really the death of the UK deli. Or at least UK delis. And that's it. And the only places that are really going to be able to do this, of course, are the big boys. Your Tesco deli counters, your Morrison's deli counters, your Sainsbury's deli counters. They're the only ones that are going to exist, and it is not going to be the level of choice that you would normally get from these independent, these artisanal like delis that you see sometimes up and down on your high street. They are gone. The choice that they have is going to go, and you're going to be left with this very much mainstream, almost next to no choice. And your only option, if you want to go and sample a good deli, well, you've got to go abroad. And and the funny thing about this, of course, is if you know anything about the food trends and industries going on at the moment, charcuterie boards are like the big thing at the moment. And yet, if these checks come in, well, there's going to be a lot of people wondering why their charcuterie boards have suddenly got so bland and boring. It's because of these checks. It's because all these independent delis, these wholesalers have gone and closed down. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens when we've got October. But I will say it now. I think they're going to kick this can down the road again because it will have massive consequences. And this is a Brexit problem, and they are desperate to try and avoid any big problems. But we're already seeing the British public are very quickly cottoning on to the fact that this is Brexit is a big problem, that it was not delivering what was being sold. So as always, thank you very much for watching, and of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.